Hey guys, it's Obsolete here, back with another video. Most Terraria content mods add new weapons to the game, such as Calamity, Fargos Soul Mod, and Elements Unleashed. Some of the weapons these mods add are quite simple, such as a simple bow, while others are very unique and complex and have some amazing effects or are super powerful. Today we are looking at some of the most insane weapons in modded Terraria. These are really in no particular order, as it's pretty difficult to give an order to these as they are all just super insane modded weapons. Also, I don't like doing this, but if you guys do enjoy the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, but only if you enjoy the content. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the weapons. The first weapon we're going over is the Sparkling Love from Fargos Soul Mod. This is dropped by the Deviant boss if you defeat her without taking any damage in Eternity mode, and it also has to be done within pre-hard mode as well. If you can somehow complete that challenge, you are then awarded this weapon. It has two attacks, one where it can be thrown like a boomerang and it spawns homing hearts and spinning death rays. This basically covers your entire screen with various projectiles. It makes it so you really can't see anything, but this thing does a ton of damage. Where I think the weapon really shines though is in its right click ability, which summons the Deviant Spirit and will use the weapon just like within the boss battle, which covers the screen with a huge amount of pink glowing lasers which deal massive damage to nearby enemies. This weapon is absolutely insane, but a bit hard on the eyes at times with everything going on. My favorite thing about this one has to be the right click attack though, that is super fun to use. Next up we have the Final Dawn. This item is dropped by Yaron and is a Calamity mod rogue weapon with 4 different attacks total. When you use it normally, it functions as a melee weapon, which will swing in front of you. If you hold up while using it, it will be thrown like a boomerang for a ranged attack, and if you get a stealth strike, it will summon a flame aura around you that lingers for a few seconds. Lastly, if you hold up with a stealth strike, you will fling yourself to the direction of the cursor, dealing damage to all enemies hit. This is a pretty complex weapon, and it has a crazy amount of attacks and a lot of different ways to deal with different situations. Next up we have the Guardian from the Fargos Soul Mod. Are you sick of going down into the dungeon and the dungeon guardians preventing you from getting that water bolt that you want for your mage playthrough? This craftable magical weapon allows you to shoot homing dungeon guardians at your enemies that ignore immunity frames, meaning it can hit on every frame, doing a massive amount of damage per second. Next up we have the Terra Reaver. This weapon is from Element Unleashed, and is dropped by what I consider to be the hardest boss in Terraria, which is Blushy Magic, which I showcased in my hardest bosses in modded Terraria video. If you defeat her, you are granted the Terra Reaver, which leaves various cuts across the screen and damages everything on screen, and it has a cooldown of 60 seconds because it's just that powerful. It's actually so powerful that it doesn't actually show how much damage it does. It instead has random characters as its damage numbers. A super amazing looking weapon animation, and great for clearing out anything that may be near you. Next up we have the Styx Gazer. This item is from Fargos Soul Mod, and is dropped by the Abomination if you defeat him without taking any damage in Eternity mode, and it resembles his attacks. One of the attacks summons sickles around the player which then shoot out in nearly all directions, which also home in on nearby enemies, and the other one summons a death ray which spawns sickles that home in on nearby enemies. Long story short, lots of homing sickles and tons of damage. Next up we have the Endogenesis. This is another one from the Calamity mod. This one is dropped by Supreme Calamitous at a 5% drop rate. It is a summon weapon that takes up 10 minion slots, and it has 4 different modes. The first mode fires lasers at nearby enemies, the second launches homing icicle shards, the third will aggressively ram nearby enemies, and the last one fires flamethrowers in all directions. This one is similar to the Final Dawn but in a summoner fashion, and it allows you to pick which mode suits you best at any moment. Next up is the Flamsteed Ring. The Flamsteed Ring is a craftable post-Moon Lord summon weapon. When used, the player is turned into a giant robot, and while in this form, most of their weapons are transferred into attacks with one of 3 modes. One of the modes lets you shoot lasers while swinging a sword, and being large and dealing more damage, and you are also able to turn yourself into a jet and fly around. The other lets you shrink yourself and shoot lasers and use your sword, and the last one lets you turn yourself into a jet that you can control by using the mouse cursor to quickly move around, while also being a small size, but you cannot attack. This is pretty cool because it transforms all your attacks, and you can literally turn yourself into a robot with this, which is a first that I've seen in Terraria. You also do a ton of damage depending on what weapon you're using. The last weapon we're going over today is the Penetrator from Fargos Soul Mod. It is a post-Moon Lord multi-class weapon with 2 different attacks. Upon use, the player will dash in the direction of the cursor, leaving behind a trail of homing eyes, which deal massive damage. The player can also not be damaged during the dash. Right-clicking with this weapon will throw the weapon like a spear, leaving behind a small death ray as well as 2 trails of eyes that home in on nearby enemies. This item also deals contact damage with enemies, so if the player directly hits an enemy with it, it will create a blast and deal damage to all enemies nearby. And that is all for the most insane weapons in modded Terraria. Honestly, I am sure I have missed some of them as there's just so many, but I wanted to showcase some that I thought were pretty insane to me. If I missed a weapon that you think is insane, comment it down below. And if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing if you want more Terraria content like this. Also join my Discord, link is in the description. Thank you guys for watching.